Who is on the line tonight?
This is a special visitor. It's the hardcore legend, Mick Foley.
Oh, hey now.
Nice.
I was told there's a birthday. Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, well, guess what, Mick? Mick, it's awesome to have you on. We interviewed you on our other podcast, the 2-Man Power Trip, and we dropped the old, hey, we're buddies with the franchise to cash in a favor down the road. But I got some funny news for you here tonight. Not only are you on the Triple Threat podcast, you are on the Unbirthday Spectacular because the Triple Threat podcast has been duped and swerved by the Wikipedia gods and the franchise.
Actually, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's correct. Wikipedia is incorrect on the information that they have on the website. But you should have known that whenever you saw the second wife, who was really the first wife of the franchise. That's where you got to know that.
You know, Shane, there is another little error that's frequently it's in the information for both of our careers. Do you remember Shane and I decided that we would have a better chance getting hired if we padded our resume to make it look like we'd been working 2 years longer than we actually had? So we got together and just decided we didn't start working in 85. We started in 83. And to this day, there is, I think the common knowledge is that I broke in 1983 just because Shane and I decided to say it was so.
We used to do a lot of things like that. Like I remember one time going to Clarksburg, West Virginia, we decided that we were going to take a little sojourn to, of all places, Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack. You were half correct. You are correct that we went to Cactus Jack's, but we did not decide. You decided that we deserved to open the show, and I think I grudgingly went along with you because at that time, like you and I were having like state of the art independent matches, and Dominic really believed in that strong opener. And you strongly believed, and then convinced me to.
Hold time out. I gotta push back against this. I'm not remembering I came up with it. I do remember us being at Cactus Jack. We bowled a game. I believe we had something to eat and drink, and got to the building, and Dominic was none too happy.
Yeah, he did not buy our car breaking down story at all. First thing he did was he asked for a receipt. Yeah, he wasn't.
Cut us off right at the knees.
Oh man, I think it was the butcher, the necro butcher. I met him, and I was surprised to find out that he had started. He was at some of those Clarksburg shows. As a
Is that right?
Yeah, he was there the night that Tony Nardo came out of the stands to help Crusher Klebanski.
No kidding.
Yeah, like he was, and so he probably saw me and you stealing a couple shows here and there, and we just thought we deserved it. We'd already, I think it had gone to our heads just a little bit because we'd done 100 West Virginia with Bill Watts' group, and they were really high on you, and we had Terry Taylor, Chris Adams, and Buddy Roberts, just believing in us. And I think the next time we came to town, we just decided that we deserved better than to.
Mick, do you remember the night in Clarksburg, West Virginia, when during the Bill Watts UWF shows that Dominic had put on the tour? Do you remember Eddie Gilbert and Terry Taylor pulling you and I out and back in the Clarksburg building? And
yeah, I didn't know that it was Clarksburg.
And they asked if we had ever thought of going on the road. And I always tell this story because it's not to sort of self-aggrandize. It was neither of us believed we had the talent to go on the road and be professional wrestlers. those guys on TV were fantastic, and we might be good for the local level. Was that your recollection as well?
Yeah. My recollection was that I don't know if I didn't believe that we had it in us. I don't know if I thought we were there yet. And I do remember that it was Eddie in a major way, but Terry Taylor also in a major way, and Chris Adams as well, and Buddy Roberts. The way, and we had been around. We'd only been around a few years, but long enough to know they weren't just blowing smoke. That they really saw something in us. And I'll add Missy Hyatt to that group too, as people who. Who kind of said that, we see something in you guys. What's funny is I think by the time we did our second group of shows with them, Eddie and Missy, I don't know if they were married yet or were about to be married, but they were driving up. They see me and you walking from a store, and they not only could tell that we were going over a high spot, they could tell which high spot we were going over. Yeah. It had to do with something ending with you doing the kip up, which hardly anybody did at that point. And it was like it was like kind of some revolutionary stuff we were doing there, including we had some really good stuff. I don't even want to go back and look at the matches. I'm afraid they might not be as good as we thought they were. But Dominic and I always reacted better to a pat on the back than a kick in the butt. And Dominic was not a back patter, but at the same time, I reacted better with a pat in the back when he finally, compliments were kind of hard to come by with Dominic. But when he pulled us aside after the first Watts shows, and he said, I think it was after the first night, he goes, "These are boys. They could take this a match anywhere in the world." And that was the highest form of flattery. And I think it was really those shows that we did that made me think, and you as well, that I think we can accomplish something in here.
I often look back at those days, especially when I watch the footage that you incredibly presciently thought to record at Dominic's school, because I would, in 10 million lifetimes, that would have never registered to me to even think of doing. And that you have that footage, every time I watch it instantly snaps me right back, because those memories are so fresh when you look at the footage. And
that was, I was lucky. It was, we were doing our college documentary project, and I brought this, to this day, the young lady reminds me of what I put her through. She wouldn't talk to me for about 2 weeks after we returned, and then when I finally, what did I do? And she goes, "Nicky, you made me sleep in a car." So she came to, that was the way we rolled, right? I remember that the Hampton, it was $40 back in, the 86. Yeah. I was like, "No, that's a little over my budget." And so I've got 2 sleeping bags. You can have one. I'll take the other. But together we did this, we really did a nice job. And like you said, it was prescient that, she was there. They were recording it. And I was really flattered that when WWE did the For All Mankind DVD, they included that documentary as an extra. The only thing they changed was the copyrighted music. And it really... it held up, and I think it's something I'm glad that we have. Not just the documentary itself, but the footage and showing where we were at that time.
Yeah, it really was well done. I got to tell you, and I'm sure I've told you this before, but Dominic, when you first were coming, Dominic, and my job was to get to the building early and to the school early, and which was like 6 or 7 a.m., early, like still pitch black outside. And Dominic told me, "There's a new kid coming." He always called you Mickey. And he said, "There's a kid coming from New York. His name's Mickey," and blah, 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 blah. So I get to the building, to the school in Freedom, PA, which is now torn down. And I pull in. It's pitch black outside. It has snowed heavily during the night. And when I first pull in, right at the bottom of the stairs, there's a car pulled in, and it's running. And so I walk over, knowing that this new kid is supposed to be coming. I walk over and I look in, and I can't see anything, because he was cocooned in this sleeping bag, but in the dark, all I could see was nothing. It was just like a formless mass. And at first, I started thinking. I knocked on the window a couple times and nothing, and then I started thinking, like, did somebody pull in here and off themselves? Did somebody commit suicide? And finally, Mickey started moving around and came out, and that's how Mick and I first met in the pitch black in Freedom, Pennsylvania, and the fun that we had there with having no idea that we were going to have any kind of future in wrestling. The fun that we had working our asses off, but the fun that we had. I always, every weekend, look forward to getting back from college to be able to go to the school to do that. It was just a load of fun to me.
Yeah, somebody just asked me, what would you have thought if you didn't make it? And I said, well, luckily, because of that documentary, would it have been worth it? And I said, I look back to what I said there, and at that time, it was, I think, the fall of '86 or maybe January of '87. And I said, look, all likelihood, I'm not going to make it in this business. But, the places I've done, the people I've met, the things that I've seen have made this the greatest experience of my life. And I'd like to think that's the way I would look at it. That's the way people should look at it.
Right.
They shouldn't let, one person, whether one person decides whether or not you've got that evasive it thing, don't let that define your career. Even guys rest his soul, Leon White, didn't think his career was worthwhile because he wasn't in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm like, Leon, no one can ever take away what you've done. You really did it.
Correct.
Please, it's a blessing if you get, if you get inducted. I mean, it was one of the best nights of my life, but I would not have made it. I would not feel like a failure if I was not in. And I think some guys, whether they make it to the top or whether they make it to the Hall of Fame, they do let that define them.
Yeah, and that's sad because, again, we're a culmination of all the experiences of what we have experienced on the road, in front of every fan, every audience, every building. To me, I look back, and although it becomes a haze after a while because of the length, thank God, of the career, to me, anytime somebody comes to me with a story and then starts to give me a few points on the story, it jumps right back into my brain. And I was with Davey Haskins, who, whenever I went to Bill Watts' UWF, he and I were put together by Eddie Gilbert. And when I was with him, you sort of think that it's all there someplace, but as he started telling stories, there was so much more memory there. There was so much more there as he was telling those stories. But it wasn't like I was having to fight to find them. They were all right there in my forefront of my memory as soon as those pieces of information started getting tagged in there. I'm sure you're the same way.
Well, there are some things I remember every moment of, and some that just completely evade me, even if they were good matches. I mean, there's some scientific evidence to indicate what it is that allows us to hold on to some memories and lose others. But I remember watching a really good match with me and Terry Funk from ECW, and I'm like, I have no recollection of this match at all, and yet I remember every single second of a barbed wire match that Terry and I had in Japan in '95. So, there may be matches with you and I that I don't remember, but yet Polka, West Virginia, maybe because it was home of the polka dots, maybe because we made it a point. I had you in a rear chin lock, and we were specifically counting the number of fans, and we're turning around. You're fighting the chin lock just as a way to maneuver your way around, so I could count the next people in that, it's 26 people. And, but yet I remember like driving home and there was like a boy, it was like a fast food / sit down, but it was like all you can eat Italian for $6 or $7. And you and I had a heck of a match in front of 26 people in Polka. And it was just like sitting down and rejoicing and just, talking like the future's wide open. You have no idea what's going to happen, but a lot of people go back and they look at those days, as the best times of their lives. And I think, I certainly had some great years where I had a tremendous time in the business, but there was something just pure about those days.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's for me, looking back at that time, I can laugh at every story because I remember the exuberance that we both had at all those matches. And I often tell the story. I'm curious if you remember this. Do you remember how you and I learned what kayfabe was?
I remember Dominic was saying it, and we had no idea what it meant, right?
We were in Warren, Ohio at the Armory. And somebody, you and I were obviously the first match, and we're going over some things, and somebody yells out kayfabe. And I don't know about you, but I honestly thought somebody was yelling for a woman named kayfabe. And they, a few seconds later, yelled it a second time, a little more sternly, and then Dominic came over and smacked us and pulled us by the ears into the shower and asking us if we thought we were big superstars and we didn't have to kayfabe. And he went to smack us again. And I said, why do you keep smacking us? And he said, you don't know what a fucking kayfabe means? And then he must have realized that he hadn't taught us.
He neglected to tell us about that.
Yeah. And do you remember this? He sheepishly, like after being so mad, said, it means get the fuck away from the person you're working with, and ran out of the shower. And that was, at least that's how I recall learning what kayfabe meant.
I do remember your reaction to that when Dominic was going over a finish in the elevator, and you're like, Dominic, what about kayfabe? Oh man, it was we had an amazing time, and it was so nice just a few months ago when me, you, and Mark got together. Mark Keenan.
Yes,
I'm going to see Dickie Flanagan in the when I go to Wheeling next month.
Oh, you going head to Wheeling?
Yeah. So Dickie got in touch with me, and he was a guy. Another guy had could have made it. Good look, good worker. Him and Mark Keenan as Dominic Denucci. Jason, now we're just throwing out names. People don't even know these names, so we're just basically having a private conversation on your podcast.
Correct. Yeah. When are you coming to Wheeling?
December 15th.
I'm going to be in. Go figure. I'm going to be on the other side of the state. I'll be in Philadelphia that weekend, or Philadelphia, Chester, Pennsylvania. But we got to hook up again. Are you in WrestleCade this weekend?
No, I'm not. I had a great time there last year. Hopefully, I'll be back next year, but not this year. Well, we'll do it sooner or later. You'll be at WrestleCon for sure, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's book it. Shane, I gotta run, but I really just want to wish you a happy, mistaken birthday, and always a pleasure to talk to you. I think you have one of the liveliest Twitter feeds in the business, and I encourage people to check it out. I'll probably go on Twitter now and encourage people to check it out.
I appreciate it, man. Good having you on, man. Thank you.
All right. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.